because she recognized that on that plane, the man who was looking at her playfully was the man who sat next to her when he came to Osaka from Tokyo. Why is he on a private jet? And, it's still behind our plane? Why does the look in his eyes seem to play with me? And, why would he pretend to be a squinting ordinary person on the plane? Countless questions suddenly gathered in Ruoli's brain. She suddenly realized that the person who leaked her whereabouts was most likely the Chinese who flew to Osaka with her. Ruoli couldn't help asking herself, who is he? Charlie was not afraid of being seen through by Ruoli at this time. He kept looking at her in the bus with a mocking look. Seeing the other party getting closer and closer to him, Charlie had a frivolous smile on his mouth, looked at Ruoli, waved at her, and shouted, "Hi, beauty." Ruoli looked at him with cannibal eyes. Although she couldn't hear what Charlie said, she could still easily recognize the mouth shape of the words "Hi, beauty." From Charlie's playful and ridiculous expressions, Ruoli realized that he was planted in the hands of this man. She observed at Charlie fiercely with resentful eyes, and her teeth were almost crushed by her. At the moment when the car and the plane interacted and the distance between the two was the shortest, Charlie made a decapitating gesture on his neck with his right hand. This gesture made Ruoli immediately furious. Suddenly she jumped up from her seat and shouted hoarsely, "Bad son. I will kill you myself." Charlie's hearing is much more sensitive than ordinary people, so he heard the woman's angry shout clearly. Immediately, he smiled at Ruoli, and said with a smile, "I'm waiting for you." Ruoli recognized this mouth shape clearly, and was even more sure that Charlie was the culprit who harmed her and more than 50 subordinates. At this moment, she couldn't wait to eat Charlie alive. However, the reality does not give her any chance of revenge at all. The convoy had already begun to accelerate at this time, and soon passed by Charlie, and after leaving the airport, it drove towards the Self-Defense Force station. At the same time, the airport staff had driven the plane towing it away, and at the same time the tower began to direct the airport to resume normal operations. The captain beside Charlie said, "The tower has approved us to go to the runway and take off." "Okay." Charlie smiled slightly, and said with satisfaction, "I have been out for so many days, it's time to go back." The plane quickly taxied to the end of the runway, then continued to accelerate on the runway, and finally took off and left Japan. Although Charlie left Japan, Japan was already boiling. All TV stations across the country are broadcasting major news urgently at this time. During the news, the host excitedly introduced to the audience that the Tokyo Matsumoto family killing case shocked the whole country. 57 suspects have been arrested. The news also specifically broadcast real shots of the capture scene. The shocking scene of multiple armed helicopters, wheeled armored vehicles, and self-defense team members encircling the entire aircraft is indeed jaw-dropping. Soon, the news spread throughout Japan. Zen was in a hot spring hotel in Aomori Prefecture at this time. After reading this news, he angrily smashed everything that could be smashed in the hotel room, including the TV hanging on the wall. This time, the Su family not only suffered heavy losses, but also disgraced. Really? The Mr. Chungfeng, who was in Eastcliff, had received the news for the first time. He called and blurted out and asked, "What's the matter? What's the matter? More than 50 people are captured by the Japanese self-defense forces? How did you lead the team? If I didn't completely hand it over to you, you caused me such a disaster. You are trying to piss me off." Zen suppressed the anger in his heart, and said in pain, "Dad. Don't know what is going on, don't know who leaked the wind, but you should know that I don't want to see this scene more than you." As he said, he firmly grasped his hair with one hand, gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Although Ruoli's identity is shameful, she is my flesh and blood after all, and now even she has been arrested. It is very likely that she will be sentenced to death by the Japanese government. Do you understand what I feel? I am a father. Ruoli is only 21 years old this year. Her actual age is 1 year younger than Ziyu. However, from her birth until the age of 18, Zin didn't know her existence. Ruoli's biological mother, whose real name is Roma, is the eldest daughter of the He family of China's 4 major martial arts families and one of Zin's personal bodyguards. Roma was not only beautiful, but also very capable. She was almost the leader of the Su family bodyguards at the time. She was 3 years older than Xin. When Xin was 15 years old, he went abroad to study. For his safety, Chengfeng asked the He family to come over and became Xin's personal bodyguard. That year, Roma was 18 years old and had just grown up. Since that year, she has been with Xin. Accompany him abroad, accompany him to study, accompany him to hone his family business, and accompany him to travel around the world. Even when Xin frantically pursued his current wife Leona, Roma had been secretly guarding.